Hi, I'm Andrew, and this is Blaster Breakdown's Year in Review for 2021. When I began this series in 2020, I didn't expect I'd have quite so many mods and blasters to show you guys, but it's worked out to be one per month, so I thought now, end of the year, it might be interesting to have a look back and provide some more information or give an update on the mods that I've done throughout this year. On that point, if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment if you'd be interested in seeing a review of 2020's blasters. It seems a long time ago now, but if you fancy a walk down memory lane with me, let me know in the comments and I'll see about putting together a review back for 2020. Okay, so we started the year with not a blaster, but a shield. So my son enjoys playing with a shield and pistol, filling a tactical role, providing support for teammates. The shield he was first using was 600 by 900 millimeters, whatever that is in American money, who knows. And he expressed an interest in making something a bit larger, as he's a growing boy. So we thought about doubling the size. This video showed how we put that together with a PVC frame and two steel mesh panels held in place with zip ties and some duct tape. And it's proved a very sturdy shield indeed. It's probably overkill in the scheme of things. You can make simpler and cheaper shields, that's for sure. But as we saw at the end of that build guide, I did test it out with a HPA blaster firing 400 FPS, and it certainly stood up to that, no problem at all. Now, some parents may have tested the shield without their child actually standing behind it when firing at that kind of velocity. What can I say? He had iPro. Moving on, February's video was one of my favorite blasters yet. Sledgefire with a Specs BZ and a Xiaomi mini compressor in the back. I was so pleased with how this mod turned out. I didn't know for sure if it was going to work, and I couldn't be happier that it has. So the compressor has its own power source built in, and adjustable PSI setting. That fills up the Specs BZ, and I've got a singled shell here with a brass barrel. Depending on the PSI setting you use and the length of barrel, you can achieve any FPS you like, from 150 FPS, which is how we use this one at our Superstock events, up to 300 FPS and beyond, just by, as I say, dialing up the pressure from the compressor and swapping out for a longer barrel. The thing that most pleases me about this mod is the way that other people in the community have taken this idea and taken it further. So in our local Brisbane group, we've seen Sledgefire mods with 3D printed stocks holding the compressor. We've seen the refill mechanism linked to the barrel brake trigger. We've seen this compressor on other blasters. And like I say, I'm really pleased and really impressed with the way that this idea went from, I guess, this proof of concept to building better and more blasters. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite mods just because of the doors it's opened, I guess, around the hobby. In March, I had a look at the Amarok by My 3D Base in Germany, a 3D printed blaster, and I stuck Merlin motors from Flywheel the World over in Perth into that blaster, see how they went. It's quite a compact mag-fed sidearm using custom micro flywheels. It was originally a Christmas present for my son to use with his shield. It turns out he preferred using the Goblin, also by My 3D Base, that he had already been using for a couple of years, so the Amarok just wasn't getting used. I've since sold that to one of the other guys in the Brisbane group and probably been shot with it since. In April, I put together a Springer, the Worker Prophecy. Nothing really special about this mod. It's really just an assembly guide for the Worker metal kit. Comes in a few different flavors. I've put the silver one in, which is sort of aimed at the Superstock level, 150 FPS or so. Like I say, nothing really tricky or amazing about this particular build guide, but if you are looking to put one of these together, maybe you'll find it useful to follow along. In May, I finally finished off and put together my Infamous mod. This one had been in the works for quite some time, and what I did here was take the Rapid Strike Select Fire kit from Sild, which sadly doesn't seem to be available any longer, and fit it into the Infamous. So Infamous, of course, is very much like a Rapid Strike, just with a dart loading mechanism. So I guess that this kit from Sild would work just as well, and it does. So that's great. So this kit allows you several levels of adjustability. It provides select fire, so one switch controls safety, single, burst, and full auto functionality. Another adjusts the rate of fire, so for burst and full auto mode, how quick darts will be fired. And the third dial uses a PWM module to control the RPM of the motors and so the FPS of the darts coming out. So 3 dials down here allow for a very customizable experience. I also stuck a few things in, like a master kill switch and a voltmeter with a press button switch. And of course it retains the dart feeding capability. So in some ways it was kind of plug and play because that's how the kit is built, but there were a few tricky things connecting it up to the control board that sits inside the Infinis to control the various functions, hooking into the switches and the cycle control, etc. But yeah, still an interesting mod. This one doesn't get any use because I don't use full-length darts for anything, so this sits on my wall doing nothing. That brings us to June, and what might be my best blaster. This is a Prophecy that I've painted red. It's HPA powered, and what I've done is incorporated a solenoid and a electronic pulse generator that sit in the stock here to give me full auto capability. So it features a supercore, of course, and the trigger activates a switch. Depending on the settings for the pulse generator, I can set it to effectively semi-automatic, right up to 8 or 10 darts per second, firing at 250, 300, 350 FPS and beyond, just based on the input pressure. So it's remote line, bottle on my back, Blastertech scar up the front. And yeah, this is probably my most complicated build because of the combination of HPA with electronic parts, but I'm super pleased with how this one turned out. July continued my Fortnite fetish, looking at the SMG-E. So here in Australia, we don't see the Strife available for purchase in shops much these days, but the purple Fortnite SMG-E is available often at a reasonable price of $20 to $30, sometimes a bit less. So this makes a pretty good option if you're looking for a relatively compact Hasbro flywheeler that can nonetheless take your usual Strife upgrade parts. So in this guide, I use the Worker polycarbonate 42.5mm cage and smooth wheels, Neo Badger motors, new from Blastertech, so running on 2S. So this is delivering 150 FPS in a semi-automatic configuration at what's a very reasonable price point with relatively inexpensive components. In a very basic, simple rewire, I did use a MOSFET to preserve the stock rev trigger, but otherwise it's a basic rewire video. Maybe if you're new to MOSFETs, you'll learn a bit from that. But otherwise, it's showing an easy way of getting a high performance super stock blaster from a product that we can buy here pretty easily in Australia. So August, I had a special guest. Chris from Nerf Family YouTube channel, link in the description below, brought around his HPA powered Mega Thunderhawk, which has been rejigged as a pump action shotgun, firing 3 short darts at a time from a indexing clip. Apart from that indexing action, the internals are relatively simple, as Chris talks about in the video. It was a lot of fun filming with Chris on the day, and I think that's something I'd like to do more of in the next year, bringing in content from other people in our Brisbane group, because we've got a lot of clever people building some really interesting blasters, and as well as being fun to film, it's fewer things that I need to actually build. Let me know in the comments below if you enjoyed Chris's special appearance and think I should have more guests in future. Okay, September, this is one of my more popular videos. I took the Dartzone Pro Mark II and stuck a Worker 18 dart angled mag in to increase the capacity from 6 darts to 18. And again, this was an idea that I wasn't sure if it would work, but I'm really happy with how it did turn out. So of course, with speed loaders, this one's pretty easy to reload from empty to 6, but I guess having the expanded capacity along with being a expanded capacity, it gives you the ability to top up from a speed loader 6 darts at a time without the blaster being completely empty. So maybe if you get down to 3 or 4 shots left, with the original you wouldn't be able to load from your speed loader until you hit empty. With this, you can stick another 6 or 12 darts in during a lull in the action without having to hit empty, which I think is a useful feature. I also stuck a Worker Scar barrel into the front attachment, so that helps a bit with accuracy, I feel. I've used this in a couple of wars since, but I don't tend to be a big sidearm guy, so it's not really something that I've worn on my hip. When I have used this, it's sort of been my primary for the round. So October, I did the Mega Motor Strike. upgrade. This has got a 3D printed cage designed by Panda from Melbourne, which takes 130 size motors and regular size flywheels. So Worker, I think I got serrated, black serrated wheels in this with Neo Rhino motors. Other than that, basic 3S LiPo rewire, again with a MOSFET to preserve the original rev trigger switch. A few extra printed parts, an extended mag release, and rev trigger is new as well. So this one was really useful in some of the game types we run in the Brisbane area Nerf group. A Mega Dart hit might be an automatic kill or a shield tag. And it just so happened that one particular event, we had a few upgraded Mega Moto strikes, and having Mega Darts flying with a bit more power, a bit more range, a bit more accuracy, really mixed up the usual dynamic. It certainly made people, including myself, rethink how we played the games. And so that's always interesting, where you can have a combination of different kinds of blasters with players working in a little squad together. Having a good Mega Dart firing blaster made some of those game types a lot more interesting than they might have been previously. In November, I had a look at the Max Striker. So this blaster is available from a few places in Australia. Blastertech is probably the most convenient. Obviously not as easy to get your hands on as it is in the US. And what this video was about was showing some easy, cheap or free upgrades that anyone can do, not just to the Max Striker, but to the Nexus Pro as well, to either improve performance or how the blaster is used, or just make it more your own. So I've got things like safety delete, a shortened mag release, a hair trigger mod, improving the air seal on your barrel, as well as showing some of the external improvements that I've made: Blastertech Scar, foregrip, sights, and stock, of course. So again, nothing groundbreaking, I guess, but if you are new to modding and starting with the Max Striker or the Nexus Pro, it might be worth having a look at this guide. You might learn a thing or two, maybe you won't learn anything, who knows? But if some people find it helpful, I think it's worth doing. This one I do and will continue to use at Superstock events. It's a bit lighter than the Prophecy. It's good performance for these 150 FPS games. It's reliable, there's not much to think about. So I guess, yeah, this is my regular Springer primary for Superstock events now. And my final video for the year was the Neutrino by Pete at UK Foam. It's a remote line HPA blaster using Spectre's Supercore. And if you haven't seen that video, it really is the simplest way to get into homemade HPA blasters that I can think of. The blaster design is so simple, you literally can't put it together wrong. It's a great design with an interesting distribution model where you can customize the various components like the muzzle piece or handguard, trigger, stock, and so on, while keeping the main shell of the blaster proprietary. It features toolless takedown and assembly, uses magnets to hold the blaster together along with Worker Picatinny rails. So it's just a really innovative design and just really easy to put together, disassemble, maintain, transport, use. As one of my most recent builds, I haven't used this one in a war yet. I'm looking forward to doing so in 2022. So hopefully I'll have some gameplay footage from that before too long. Okay, that's my 12 builds for 2021. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I say, if you are interested in going back a further year to 2020, let me know in the comments. Links to each individual build video are in the description box below. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a happy new year, and we'll see you next time.